What does Emily think about migration? What does migration or being a migrant mean for her or to her? How about the cases of refugees? Does it represent a different thing? Does she have a particular narratives around this? So that's what we're gonna find out. So I think hello, welcome once again. Guess who we have here? You cannot guess that. So this is Emily.
Yeah.
Emily is from the UK. She's British. Emily, say something in your British accent.
Yeah, I'm from Manchester, in the UK, so just here to have a chat today.
Yeah, but we're in Sweden at the moment. So Emily moved to Sweden some days ago.
It was Wednesday and it's now, Sunday? So 4 days ago?
4 days ago.
Yeah.
So she's fresh like morning bread, freshly baked bread. So
brand new.
And now we want to discuss about migration and representation of migrants and refugees generally. The narratives around migration and migrants and refugees. And I was thinking, Emily is from the UK, and she moved to Sweden. I'm from Nigeria, and I moved to Sweden. On a level ground, the both of us should be migrants. And I consider myself a migrant, and I also have an understanding of what it means to be a migrant in Europe. But what does Emily think about migration? What does migration or being a migrant mean for her or to her? How about the cases of refugees? Does it represent a different thing? Does she have a particular narratives around this? So that's what we're gonna find out. So I think you will do a little bit of introduction.
Yeah, I could do an introduction.
And then we'll go straight into that.
Cool. Yeah, so I am working for Northvolt, and I'm a projects engineer, so I basically look after contractors for Northvolt and make sure that they're fulfilling the contracts that they've got with us to build the buildings that we want them to build. And I've done that for a few years now, so I worked for another client back in the UK, and I used to work for a contractor in Finland, so I've kind of had a bit of an experience of living abroad before as well.
You've lived in Finland?
Lived in Finland, and I actually did a few months in Germany at the start of this year as well.
How long in Finland?
About a year. So,
okay.
Yeah, I was working for a contractor. It was a data centre rather than a manufacturing facility. But yeah, spent a year there. And Finland, again, is different to Sweden, even though it's neighbours, but it's still different.
So is this the Brexit or after the Brexit?
So Finland was after the vote, but it was before we actually left the EU.
Okay.
So when I moved to Finland, it was really easy. I didn't have to get a work permit. I didn't have to, do anything. I literally moved within a week.
So moving to Sweden, you had to apply for work permit?
Yeah.
You did...
It took so long. So long.
This is really funny, Some 2 years ago, from UK to Sweden or to any part of EU, you just enter the plane and move.
Yeah.
But right now you have to apply. She has to apply like me.
Yeah.
So that being the case, do you consider yourself a migrant?
Yeah, I would consider myself living outside of the UK. Anywhere else, I would consider myself a migrant.
But do you think you share proximity in culture with Sweden or with other Europeans, Finland, or do you think you're different?
Maybe some things, but I would say that the cultures are quite different. So, like British culture and Swedish culture is
definitely.
Yeah.
But I know that they will share proximity to you than the Nigerian culture will. But now let's look at it from the narrative, the global narrative of migration and refugees.
Yeah.
When you hear about migration and when you hear about refugees, as a Brit, what comes to your mind? What generally do you think when you hear about migrants or refugees or stuff like that?
Yeah, so I think in the UK we have migrants and refugees and people that come to the UK to study and people that come to the UK to work. So there's quite a lot of different types of people that come to the UK. In my mind, a migrant is someone that chooses to move abroad for a specific reason, either work or school or family, whereas I see a refugee more as being you're like at a point in your country where you fear living in your country, so you're almost forced to move to escape whatever's going on in your country. So I'd see migrants as more of a choice, whereas refugees is more of like you're trying to escape sort of thing.
Yeah, but do you feel that in Europe generally, both the UK, both in Sweden, both in the whole of Europe, that there's a narrative that tries to make migration mean something bad, something negative? Do you think that is real?
Maybe. I think sometimes, especially in the UK, I think British people see migrants as, they're trying to take jobs.
That narrative
which
is everywhere. But
it's so stupid because, like, normally people that move to the UK have certain qualifications that the UK wants and we're short of. So that means that we need it to keep the economy going. So really, they're not taking jobs, and I think it's all a bit silly.
Since you're in Sweden, and if I'm in Sweden, I'll say you're coming here to take our jobs. So we send you back to UK.
Go back.
Interesting. But now when we're talking about these narratives, do you think it's something that should be changed? The narratives of, okay, they are coming to take our jobs. Wait, is it true they are coming to take our jobs?
What, people in the UK think that?
Generally, not just the UK. I know that many people have a perspective of how they view migrants. And when it comes to the issue of taking up jobs, it's not just the UK. People everywhere, where people come to, where people mostly migrate to, sometimes see it as they are coming to take our resources or our jobs or something that is due to us. So my question is that true? One?
Yeah, I don't think it's true. I think a lot of the time, so like where we are now in Skellefteå and where I was in Finland, the towns are quite small. So if big projects do want to take place, it's almost impossible to resource the projects with the people that you've got, because not everyone wants to work on a construction project or in a factory, or do you know what I mean? So it's almost like, I don't see it as taking jobs. I see it as like supplementing the local people and the local skills and trying to like improve.
So that means migration is very essential to complementing local, the job market and human resources.
That's what I think.
That's why you moved.
Yeah.
Wait. Why did you move? Let's find out.
Why did I move?
Yes.
So I love living abroad. I love like different cultures and different people, and like I said, I've been here 4 days and I've met so many people already and so many cultures, and we like try different foods from different people, and it's just such a nice way to meet other people and see how different people are.
I agree with you. I moved to Sweden 2 years ago.
Nice.
And I've never been exposed. I've worked in multicultural environment, but moving to Sweden, just like I'm in the center of the world. I can't think of a country I've not met someone, or let me say a continent. I know someone from every continent in the world. I've tasted something from every continent in the world. It's crazy. It's cool. So I think that's what migration allows you to do. Now, when it comes to these issues, how do you think changes could be made in the way migration is represented, in the way refugees are represented? Do you think, it doesn't matter whatever people think, they should just go with it? Or do you think that efforts should be made towards changing these ideas and thoughts?
Yeah, I think a lot of the time sort of stereotypes and preconceptions are because people don't understand why we have refugees and why we have migrants. So I think it's maybe about like educating everyone, really. It's not just about educating people in Sweden or educating people in the UK. I think it's about, okay, like migration is good because it means that you have different ideas from different places and you have different cultures and different ways of thinking. So I think if we can educate people a bit more about why refugees and migrants are good, then I think it's good to change the stereotype on it.
I'm part of a project called, and it's an advocacy project, an exchange lab by New Women Connectors and UNIRE. I was sometime I think earlier in the year I was in Rome.
Oh wow.
And then there was another event in Amsterdam.
Nice.
And it's all about teaching how to change these narratives, how to ensure that there is a level ground for migrants, people who are new to Europe, to blend into the society.
Yeah.
But there is a question that popped up in one of the workshops, and it's, what's the role or whose responsibility is it to change the narrative?
Yeah.
Is it the citizens, or is it the media, or is it the government? Who do you think bears the most responsibility?
I think it's difficult, because I think if the government is allowing people into a country, then they should be supporting those people. I know that most countries, like for refugees, for example, governments do tend to have programs in place where people are supported, and online you can normally find like expat communities that will say, like, in this country this is how you do things, or this is how, like, the plug sockets are different, and like how you buy a car. So I think in that way it's quite nice that there is that sort of community that you can tap into to find out more information. But in terms of educating people, in like Swedish people in Sweden, it's difficult. I don't know whether the government bring in like a class in school about it, or I don't know.
I mean, but someone has to make a move, and someone has to take responsibility.
Yeah, true.
Okay, let's now come to citizens. What do you think is the role of the citizens? I mean, let's say I'm a citizen of Sweden and I don't want migrants, or I'm a citizen of Sweden, I want migrants, or I'm a citizen of Sweden and I'm neutral, or whatever the case may be. What do you think is my duty as a citizen to ensure that the narratives about migration and refugees are right, and there is no misrepresentation, and the representation is, like you said, coming to supplement the existing human resources? How do you think I can contribute towards strengthening that narrative of positivity?
Yeah.
The narrative of migration is a good thing. It should actually be a good thing. I mean, this is a globalized world.
Yeah.
So what's my job? What's your job as a citizen to make those in the UK or in Sweden or in Finland or wherever you find yourself? What's your job as a citizen to contribute to these things?
I think as an individual, it is quite difficult because you're just like one person, aren't you? But I think by talking to other people about it, and even doing things like this, like, people will watch the YouTube video and think, oh,
right,
we're educating ourselves about what it's like to live in another country. But I would happily talk to local Swedish people here about it and why I moved, and I think it's just being open-minded and opening your mind to, okay, like, different ideologies. And I mean, Swedish people might want to go to the UK sometime, and I would be happy for them. But I think until you've done it yourself, it's difficult to understand migration fully unless you've actually lived it.
You're right. Now let's talk about the UK. Why did you leave EU?
Why did we? Oh, I voted to stay.
You wanted to stay?
I wanted to stay in the EU. Yeah.
So who wanted to leave?
So I think generally the reasons why I think people wanted to leave, there was a lot of government propaganda. So a lot of the government was saying, if we leave, then there's more money for the NHS, there's more money for this, there's more money for that, which is kind of true, but we've not really reaped the benefits of it. So them saying there's more money for the NHS has got worse since we left the EU, so I don't know what's happened to the money.
They lied.
That's kind of how it feels.
But as a citizen, what was the major differences between when you were part of EU and you're not part of EU? What do you think are the major differences, good or bad?
I mean, things like importing things from the EU, so my cousin, for example, she runs a plant business, and beforehand she used to be able to like ship from the Netherlands to the UK within a day, and now they have to do documents on the Dutch side, documents on the British side. It takes like 6 days.
That was increased cost.
It increased cost, it increased time. It means that the quality's worse because the plants are sat like not being watered and looked after. So like it, in my opinion, a lot of things are worse because it's limiting movement, it's limiting resources that we can have. And like I did quite a lot of geography when I was like geography education when I was younger, and a big part of that is globalization and making connections and being able to speak to people in different countries and gain education from different people. And in my mind, by us leaving the EU, we were shutting ourselves off from all of
the
that.
rest of the EU. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not from the EU.
Yeah.
So I have no opinion on that.
It's different.
But do you think that the UK will ever be back, or I mean?
No, I think it's one of those things that British people are very proud people. Like once they make a decision,
They'll stick to it.
they're like, we're done. We're not going back. We don't care.
But you want to go? I don't want to talk about politics.
Oh, I mean, the British government at the moment. Don't get me started. We've had about. This is our 3rd Prime Minister in a couple of months. It's just crazy.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting. But I personally, I feel like why the government has a duty to play. I mean, let's say the government has a radio direction, like you mentioned, propaganda or the anti-migration direction. I think the citizens the responsibility moves to the citizens to make changes, to engage in advocacy, to share their own voices.
Yeah.
And I think the very best way to do that is in any little way anybody can. You have to represent these communities of migrants. I mean, I'm in Sweden. Do I feel Swedish enough, or do I still feel like some alien, some stranger here? I mean, there's so many factors though. But I think the locals here needs to be more acceptable.
Yeah.
They need to open up their arms to people moving in, because I think migrants keep the country running.
Maybe, yeah.
To an extent, or they contribute a lot.
They help. They add to it, don't they?
They help a lot. Anyway, do you have anything to tell us?
Why did you want to move to Sweden?
Why did I move to Sweden?
Yeah.
Well, so in 2019, that's when my journey started to Sweden. I was going through some things. Then I saw the happiest countries in the world, and they listed the Scandinavian
one
countries.
One of them is Sweden.
And I'm like,
except
okay.
when the winter comes and then it's all dark.
I'm like, okay. And by that time, I was already thinking of studying abroad. Then I was like, okay, let me apply for this program. I applied for a master's in Sweden.
Nice.
Then I went back because I was working then. Then I went back to my job. Then in 2020, COVID. By February, COVID. I mean, all over the world. But Nigeria, there was no much COVID. It was just some distant stuff.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, because we worked for Google, so unfortunately, Google stopped operations in Sub-Sahara. So by February, so I was practically out of job.
Oh, wow.
Then by April, my country went on a lockdown. Nigeria went on a lockdown. The COVID was like uncertainty. People didn't know what was going to happen. But I was lucky. That same April, I got a notification from the Swedish government. Hey, genius, you've been awarded a scholarship. Come to Sweden.
And you were like, okay.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, let's go and see the happiest country. Yeah. So then, in the midst of the pandemic, I got my residence permit. I enjoyed evacuation flight.
Yeah.
And I came to Sweden.
Wasn't Sweden like COVID wasn't? They were quite relaxed about COVID.
Yeah, they were quite, but Nigeria it was on lockdown.
Yeah.
So and Sweden was moving their citizens. Generally, Europe were moving citizens back. So I joined one of the evacuation flights. Then when I came here, the first day I landed in the airport, nobody was wearing mask, and I was like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah, what's happening? This is a crazy country.
Nobody wore masks in Sweden. I'm like, okay, this is good.
Oh, funny.
But unfortunately, Sweden, I think, regretted that decision. Later in the year, they started imposing some slow restriction. You don't do this, you don't do that. So I've been here for 2 years. I lived through the pandemic here. Although I've been to Nigeria. I was in Nigeria earlier this year too.
Yeah.
I spent some time in Nigeria, then came back again. And now we're here.
Yeah. Do you know much Swedish?
Basic.
Basic.
Yes, basic.
Yeah.
I know taxamike.
Tack så mycket, yeah. Thank you.
You're heterogeneous, you know. But you will learn, right? You will join the Swedish classes.
Yeah, I think I do want to learn. I think going back to being a migrant again, I think if local people are going to be more accepting of migrants, if they can see that migrants are learning the language, immersing themselves in the culture, then it's maybe they get a bit more accepting of people, don't they?
So you see yourself long time in Sweden, or do you think you have a Nordic lifestyle? Or do you think you're a nomad?
Maybe a bit of a nomad.
So
Yeah.
you're gonna move.
Yeah, I'll probably do a couple of years here, I think, and then
2, 3, 4
see
years.
what happens.
5
Yeah.
years.
But I don't plan very far. I plan like 6 months.
6 months.
And then
I have a German friend, and she was like, I don't have long-term plans.
No.
I just spend plans every 6 months. I'm like, really?
as long as I'm happy and like I'm surrounded by good people, that is
But
what's important to me.
that's cool though.
Yeah.
So you can wake up this day, I'm like, no, I think I need to be in Nigeria. Then you move.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank
yeah.
you so much for
That's
being part of
okay.
this.
That's okay.
Thank you so much. And subscribe to the YouTube channel.